Okay, my favorite genre is sci-fi. I love it. I am a little bit of a nerd. Only reason I'm not saying a big nerd because that's insulting to the true nerds out there. I've only been to one. It wasn't Comic Con, but that type of event. But sci-fi fantasy, that is my game. That is my genre. If I had to choose one, that would be most definitely it. It is such a creative kind of storytelling that I just fall in love with it. You put sci-fi, and I can get along with a lot more stuff. I am one of the few that I could rock with Star Wars, Star Trek. Yes, I can rock with both. I don't care what you say. So I love the fantasy. I love the creativity of it. I hope to be able to write one day. But that is where I rock. And unfortunately, um, I don't really come across a Christian version of that. And I guess this is part of maybe a larger problem. Uh, Christian artistry doesn't always flow into every genre. I'm not saying that it necessarily has to, but I'm saying it's a it's a space that we are not in, and as long as it's not sinful, but I believe we have a heart or an obligation, a light to shine light in those places. One of the things that kind of bugs me about sci-fi most of the time is they're in future, and there's this prevailing thought that in the future uh, we'll be done with religion, and therefore we'll know that God doesn't really exist. If the very few people who have a faith, you can keep that, but we all know better at this point. Basically, saying that we're going to outgrow God or the need for God in the future, and it kind of jabs at me a bit. You know, Star Trek is one of my favorite. Is my like my one of my favorite shows. In general, Deep Space Nine was my probably my favorite series out of the whole bunch. Uh, but like little bits here and there. Like unlike some sci-fi like Star Wars, which has nothing to do with Earth, Star Trek portrays itself as being future of the human race. And while I was some pleasant surprised of how they handle religion and faith, and I believe if you know Deep Space Nine, the captain was Cisco. I believe his father kind of dropped some lines here and there that kind of led you believe that hey, they're still Christians in was like hundreds of years into the future. But by and large, but it's science over faith, which to me, science is not contradictory to God. Science was made by God. There's no verses, in my opinion. But that being said, it is kind of prevailing voice that in sci-fi and science fiction, that we will all just know better than to keep trusting God, than to keep trusting or believing that there is a God. And it's so obviously He's not there in these stories. I'm not saying that I necessarily need a come to Jesus moment on Star Trek. Hey, I'll take it, but I really want to like the notion that God does not exist just because we're on some starships. That doesn't really change anything. Um, so that is one of the reasons why I wanted to enjoy sci-fi and any kind of entertainment, even some made by Christians. There's some muck, there's some trashiness in there, but you chew it up. What's the line? Yeah, I don't know. You take the good with the bad, or you just basically filter out, the ungodly stuff. Uh, but I would like a story where again it doesn't necessarily have. I don't necessarily have to see angels, like on my little starship or what have you. But I would like like that God is not absent. That faith in God is not absent just because we're living on the moon or in some space colony. I believe it's. I believe it'll go a lot further. I believe it will, because I just got people like me. I'm sorry, I'm kind of rambling on about, it, but my mind's just going back and forth here. Let me get rid of this little. Well, I'll keep it. I might get rid of it later. There's a little banner at the bottom. Just realized that it's been going on this whole time. Uh, but and I really kind of hoping for like a kind of Christian sci-fi. Now I was watching Track Stars, and yeah. There's some Christian fantasy. I don't consider Lord of the Rings, Chronicles of Narnia as necessarily as sci-fi. Uh, you know, Star Wars kind of melds the magic with the science, I guess, if you can say that. But basically, if basically if it's got an elf, a hobbit, or a wizard, I'm putting that in the fantasy category. And if it's in the future and we're flying to another planet, I'm putting that in the sci-fi. And there's really nothing in the sci-fi category that's at least that I know of that is made by Christians. Some Christian beliefs kind of seeps in, and I love it when it does. But by and large, it's considered, like a throwaway topic. Um, I will say one of the reasons that I'm worried about whoever does this, there is something that I'm worried about, and that is trash production. Uh, some really crappy, sci-fi. Because one of the things I love about sci-fi is how it looks, the artisticness of it. If you remember back, it's been over a decade since Avatar, not the last Airbender, but Avatar: The Blue People, came out, and that just looks so. I remember at the time, I haven't seen that in a while, but it just looked very stunning, And sci-fi always has to be that. It always has to look cutting edge. It has to look as realistic as possible. And if the story is good enough, when you look back on the years later, you'll forgive it. Like if you look at the original Star Wars, you can say, "Hey, this was good for its time," uh, but you're not getting away with those kind of graphics, those kind of production now. And you could go back, and if the story sucks, which sometimes our stories are not the best, and if the story is not the best, and if the production is way subpar, it's gonna fall flat in its face. And for that reason, I can understand why you know we haven't seen uh, a Christian sci-fi or just in that going into that genre. And it's just one of the genres that we don't really live in. Is I know there's a Christian. I know our movies tend to be feel good, which it, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to not be a feel good sci-fi. Sci-fi is just kind of the outside of it. The characters are humans are humans. Characters are characters. Not much changes depending on if they're 1,000 years in the future or they're 100 years ago. People are still people. The story, if you make the story relevant, uh, and I saw this, one of the things that Star Trek is good at is relating current issues. Uh, like the setting would be in way in the future. The settings would be, the characters would be aliens all over the place, dimensions, different planets. It didn't have you, but they brought like current. How should I say this? They brought like current scenarios into their episodes. Like you knew when they were talking about race. You knew when they were talking about slavery, murder, or any kind of moral issue. You knew that is what this episode was getting at. It wasn't so alien, no pun intended. It wasn't so out there that you missed the point. And I think because of that, we definitely have something to say. Like it don't matter what it looks like. As I'm taking it back. It does matter what it looks like, but the issues are still the issues, and that is a creative way that we can express uh, our virtues, our principles, and our characters in a very artistic way That's really why I'm kind of passionate about it. Kind of about all this, uh, because I believe that is a good aim. You don't necessarily have you can preach without preaching. Uh, I just I think David Wood on his YouTube channel, he just put up not just I don't know how long ago he put in his video, but he showed that in the original Star Trek, with Captain Kirk. I admit I have not got through the whole thing. I'm not gonna say anything about it. It was the original, so I respect it for that alone. I did say the movie that Ralph Collins was pretty good though. And in one of the episodes, they actually mentioned Jesus. Uh, I don't know if they mentioned his name, but they did say Son of God. It was like a big reveal at the end, and it was pretty cool. I like how they did that. And I heard Gene Roddenberry. I butchered that name. The guy who wrote Star Trek. I believe he was not a Christian, and later on, you're not gonna see that again. But it fit. It made the story good, and I believe there is an area where we can fit in. I know I'm not the only Christian that likes a sci-fi. I know I'm not the only one that believes that we can make a dope story and make it relatable to people. All right. So that's my hope. That's my wish. I want a Christian sci-fi. I made my case.
There's a rainbow in your smile. There's a kiss inside your eyes. And every word is a love letter in a song we sing together. You're a flame that never dies.